Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to the next session in LFG Live. Today we are going over delegation that actually works. In our process and operations month, we've already done if it lives in your head, it's risk. SOPs without the corporate BS. Today, delegation, and next week, next Friday, systems you need before you scale. So lots of exciting things, guys. Not as exciting sometimes, I think, as sales and marketing, of course, but still the fundamental things we need to ensure that we can grow our business. And again, as I talk about growth, it's not just size. It's not just saying, hey, I have one or two shops, I want to open five more. Sometimes it's just growing in what we're offering, how we're offering it. So scaling, growing, we need all these process and operations in place to do so. But as usual, as we start off with today, team, what are we drinking? So I have today, again, man, I think I did this last week. That's a little boring, but I do have my iced coffee. Today's the last day of this weird April heat wave that we've been having. It's a little cooler today than it's been, but still pretty darn warm out of nowhere in the 80s and almost 90 before it goes back down into the 50s and 60s this week. So doing my iced coffee this week. All right, now let's jump in again, talking about delegation. So when you think about delegation, have you ever handed something off to somebody on your team and then either spent a bunch of time redoing it yourself or just kind of being anxious about it? Like, oh, I know this is going to go poorly. I should have just done it myself, right? Happens all the time. In my opinion, for the most part, that's not usually a people problem. That's not usually that the people on the receiving end of that delegation just can't get it done. It's usually an actual delegation problem, which is what we're going to talk about today. But the hard truth is, if you can't delegate, you can't grow. I was just talking to a business leader the other day, and I know I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, that I told this particular business owner, everything we create, we have to create to hand off. Meaning, if we were to look at that CEO, the owner of that business, and look at what their job description is, it should almost be empty. And I know that sounds a little counterintuitive. We're owners. We work hard. What do you mean my job description should be empty? It's that it should always be revolving. We should be creating something, making sure it works, testing it, creating an SOP, and then delegating it. Because if we're bogged down in the day-to-day, we can't be working on the next thing. We can't be working on that next great thing. And you know what? You know what happens at the end of it all? If you say, well, I've grown everywhere I want to grow. I've done everything I want to do. Everything is delegated and my calendar looks empty. Go to the beach. You've created something amazing. Go do whatever makes you happy. You've created something amazing. But we can't grow the business and we can't get the business to the next level if we can't perfect, or at least get close to perfecting, delegation. If you cannot delegate, you refuse to delegate, you don't want to delegate, you're the ceiling. You're as far as we're going to get. Don't be the ceiling. Break through that ceiling. Make sure that we are going to the next level and continuing to break through whatever boundaries we have. And we're going to talk today about how to get that done. So when I look at delegation, I look at trust and clarity. I was really, kind of racking my brain thinking about today's session and saying a few different things in my head. And what does it really break down to for the most part? Trust and clarity. We talked last week about the SOPs, right? That's some of that clarity piece. Got to have the trust too. Once you have those two things in place, that's delegation that actually works. And the trust is also helped by being able to have conversations with the team, talking about how we manage our team, how we hold our teams accountable. That's where that trust comes in. If you have a process in place to really write down those SOPs and have them documented, but also a constant communication with your team and constant feedback, that's where that trust is going to come from. That's where delegation is going to work. So when does delegation not work? Where does it fail? I'm sure some of you are saying, well, it probably fails because I don't have the right person in the right place. Maybe, right? That nothing is ever a one size fits all. Most people do think it fails because of the team, and I'm telling you that that's not the case. I've heard they just don't do it the way I'd want to do it, or it's faster if I do it by myself, or nobody cares about this business the way I do. I created this from the ground up. It's not usually what's happening. Now, yes, you are the best at what we're doing, more than likely, right? Unless we're continuing to hire better than our best. But if that's usually us just not delegating properly. So what's usually happening in those situations is not what we just said. It's you delegated a task. You didn't delegate an outcome. You said, handle the client follow-up. Call this customer. You never defined what it looked like. You never defined what was actually necessary. Or you skipped the briefing. You skipped the explanation. You handed it off in like a quick hallway conversation passing by and assumed they knew everything, assumed they had the full picture of what was going on, but they didn't. They're not going to get it done right. You hear me talk all the time about part of my job is providing tools to my team and removing obstacles. Well, did you give them the tools that they needed? Did they have the SOP they needed? Did they have the template or the email or whatever it might be? Did they have what they needed? Or did you just give them a task and a deadline? And then the last, This is the hardest one because it's not as tangible. You checked in too much. You almost took away their ability to have their own reasoning, to have their own ability to think through a process because you checked in so much, they became a tool to your project rather than being the one who was delegated to. That's a tougher one, but it's a true one. Not only have I seen it in work and business, I've seen it with my children. If I've really kind of micromanaged what they were doing and then they asked a silly question, I'm like, why would you ask that? Well, I realized I was taking away their ability to think. I was micromanaging the process. I no longer gave them the ability to think, so they stopped. Happens at work too. One of the exercises that I do, and I know I talked about this early in the year at some point, but I've done this for years. Again, I don't remember where I learned it. Apologies, I can't give credit, but it's been so long. But this is an activity I do often with my leaders in business when they think about delegation and talking to people and making sure that their directives were clear. Because if I ever have an employee who did something differently than what I intended, the first thing I do is not get upset with the employee. The first thing I do is look at myself and say, did I give them the proper instruction? Did I follow everything I need to do? And this exercise is a little eye-opening for everybody. So anybody watching, I'm going to ask you, this will only take less than a minute. Go get a piece of paper. Plain piece of paper. You don't need a pen, just the paper. Okay, hit pause because I'm not going to stop. When you have that paper, I'm going to say some instructions, and I need you, no questions, nothing in the chat, no questions at all. Follow every single instruction that I give you. And at the end, I need your paper to look exactly like my paper. You ready? Go. Fold your paper in half. Rip your paper. Fold your paper in half again. Rip your paper. Fold your paper in a third. Rip your paper. Fold your paper in half again. Fold only part of your paper, not the whole paper, but part of it. And then that part that you folded, I want you to rip that. Okay, rip another corner. Rip a line. And then one other corner. All right. So now I'm going to open up my paper. And I expect all of yours to look exactly like me because I know the words came out of my mouth. I know I told you exactly what to do. So I'm going to unfold my paper. And I'm going to show you. There's my paper. Okay. So I expect everybody to have every same crease as me, every same rip as me, every same tear as me. Everything looks exactly the same as me because I know I told you what to do. Right? That's what a lot of us as leaders do. We know that we told you what to do, but did we make sure we were clear? Did we document it? Did we ask for clarity? Did we open ourselves up to questions? Had I allowed you to ask a question each step of that way, you would have said, all right, Daria, am I folding left to right, up, down? Where am I ripping? Exactly. I didn't allow that, though. And you know what? In all the years, and when I say years, I mean, guys, over a decade, I've been doing the same exact exercise. I've never once had somebody's paper look like mine because it's nearly impossible. So when we talk about delegation, when we talk about leadership, when we talk about making sure that our teams are doing the things that we expect of them, reflect on yourself first. Did I give them the proper instructions? Did I give them the right tools they need? Did I remove the obstacles? Okay. So remember, delegation usually doesn't fail because of your team. It fails because the handoff was unclear. It fails because the systems weren't in place. That's not on the person. That's on you to get those fixed. Along with me, of course. We'll help you out with that. So again, we talked about it before when we opened it up. Trust and clarity equals delegation that truly works. And I believe that. The clarity without trust means that you've written everything down, documented everything. You have these amazing SOPs. You're probably called LeMay Fusion Group. I helped you through it. Amazing, the best SOPs you can imagine. But you're still hovering. You're second guessing. You're redoing a lot of the people's works. The processes are there, but you're not letting anyone do it. You're not giving them the freedom to get things done. That's micromanaging dressed up as systems. It's not going to work. The opposite, trust without clarity. You believe in your team. You love them. They are amazing. You're amazing. But you haven't told them what right looks like. You haven't given them the tools. You haven't given them, remove the obstacles from them. You're going to get frustrated. That's it. You're going to have a bunch of people that love each other and believe in each other, but you're going to have a bunch of frustrated people. When we have trust plus clarity, you've defined the outcome. You've documented it. You've provided the tools. You've provided the context. You've agreed on checkpoints. We talked recently about when do we check in? How often do we check in? Then you step back every now and again. You step back and you let them run. You check in sometimes. We'll talk about that in a minute, kind of the 4 levels of delegation. But you let them do it. You let them do the job you gave them. So when we look back on the last 2 weeks of things that we've talked about, clarity comes from your processes. from your SOPs that we talked about last week. And if you haven't documented how something gets done, you're kind of asking your team to read your mind. It's not going to work. So make sure we're documenting. You can't delegate what you haven't defined. Okay. So when we talk about delegation, a lot of times people think, oh, Terry, doesn't that mean I'm just giving all my work away? Because I kind of joked about that at the beginning, right? When we're looking at the CEO founder level, I want you to be able to enjoy your days with your family and on the beach by delegating everything on your agenda. But that's not the case. It's not just pushing everything off. There's levels of delegation. And I've kind of narrowed it down to 4. And as I always say, every single week there's some variables, but if I can narrow it down to 4, it's the most extreme down to the least extreme. The first is do exactly this. Level 1 is do this. Specific instructions, SOP created. You and I have trust amongst each other. I've created this SOPs and you must do this exactly how I tell you how to do it. This is often going to be for new hires, brand new team members, right? This will be for kind of entry-level jobs. This will be for high-stakes jobs, so kind of opposite ends of the spectrum there. And when I was thinking about the opposite ends, I thought about my kids, my teenagers, Noah and Samaria. They work at Crumble Cookie. When they're mixing the batter to make these cookies, there's no wiggle room. They are told how to do it, and that's it. They're not supposed to think. They're not supposed to say, oh, I suggest this or that. No, it's a giant corporate chain. They don't want to know that this person likes a little sweet or this a little more savory. No, you follow those instructions to the T. That's it. There is no negotiating. You just do it this way. Makes sense, right? Then on the flip side, let's say we're talking about something a little more scientific. Let's say we're talking about formulating a medicine or some chemicals, right? That has to be done exactly the right way. Now, if we're in the testing side of it, certainly, but if we're in the manufacturing side of it, that has to be done exactly. So that's kind of when we talk about the high stakes, where precision matters more than autonomy. Then we have level 2. Start loosening up those reins a little bit, where here's the outcome, and here's how I would suggest getting it done. So you're going to share your method. You're going to share kind of what you've seen work, what you've seen not work. They can adapt it. This is usually going to be used for team members who are adapting to your environment or adapting to a new role or adapting to a new task. You're building up their confidence in doing what they're doing. You're letting them know exactly how you've done it in the past. So they do have a path of what works or potentially what doesn't work. But you're giving them a little bit of freedom to kind of take a peek at how they want things done. Level 3, taking it another step further. Here's the outcome I want. Bring me a recommendation before you do anything. So they own the research. They own the thinking. They own the hypothesis. Before anything gets done, though, you approve the execution. That would be used for bigger decisions or people still building confidence in that area. So I think of, for example, in my history of working with express stores, this is off the cuff. I'm trying to think of something like that because they actually did give me a lot of freedom. I said that one of the best things that they ever did was hire amazing people to do a great job and got out of their way. They really gave us a lot of ability to stretch our legs and where our areas of expertise were. That really unshackled us to be able to do amazing things. But of course, there's still owners. There's still a board that we have to answer to. So for example, health insurance. They weren't there. The owners weren't there by my side or by the HR team side, going over all these different vendors and different carriers and different plans and all this. Not by any means. They did not want to be bogged down with the minutia of anything. But at the end of the day, once we've kind of made our decision, of course, we present it to them and say, hey, here's what we think. This is our good, better, best. Which one do you guys want to choose with us? So it was really, we're doing all the work because they gave us an outcome that they wanted. Give us the outcome, which is fine to do health insurance, but bring us the recommendation first. Then the fourth is the most freedom. Here's the outcome. Handle it and tell me what you did. What I can liken this to is a lot of my HR background. With HR, especially in employee relations items, the owners of all the companies I've ever worked for didn't really want to know the minutia because they trusted in me. I'm a SHRM CP, PHR. My degree is in human resources management. So they never looked at it and said, well, I'm going to know more than Daria. Now, certainly that doesn't mean they blocked me out. If I had a question or guidance or, hey, I could do A or B, what do you think? Of course, they were always there. But in those cases, it was more of, here's the outcome that I need. I need this handled. Do it. And then tell me later what you did, just so I'm kind of in the loop on it. So that gives me full ownership. I act, and then I debrief the owner, right? So when we're looking at all these, again, level 1 is kind of do exactly this. Level 2, here's the outcome. Here's how I suggest doing it. 3, Here's the outcome I want. Bring me a recommendation before you do anything. And level 4, here's the outcome. You do it and just tell me later how you did it. Most founders default to level 1 for everything. Here's what, just do exactly how I tell you. It's not going to grow the business. What that's going to do is just have a bunch of order takers who are doing exactly what you want when you want it, but you're the one who has to start every one of those things. You're the one who has to start and own every process. You don't have the time for that if you're trying to scale or grow your business, or even just have a life outside of getting every single task in your business done. The team's not going to develop. They're not going to grow. They're not going to get better at what they're doing. So what we need to make sure that we're doing is evolving people through those processes. And again, it's not every process is going to be that level 4. Not everyone is. That's going to be a really high level, high trust environment that you can do that. But you can get yourself to a lot of those level 2s and 3s for sure by building that trust and that clarity. And when you do hand it off, how do we hand it off properly to make sure that it doesn't break? Because that's what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to avoid things being broken and causing more stress for us. So I do have a checklist, as I always do, right, of how we do these things. But I'm going to go over it a little bit now. But certainly, if you need more of my help later, reach out. That's what I'm here for. But here's kind of the quick overview of how we make sure that we're delegating properly. And first is define the outcome. What does right look like? How is this solved? What does that look like at the end of it? Second, give them the tools that they need and remove the obstacles. Do they need an SOP, a template, an example, context, a partner, a subject matter expert? Don't make them figure it out from scratch if you already know something. Give them those tools, remove the obstacles. Third, set your checkpoint. When will you check in? It's not to hover. You know, one of my great supervisors in the past would do that all the time. He'd be like, and he would never try to put more on my calendar because he knew our calendars were already mobbed. So it'd be, hey, Daria, I know we already have our check-in on Wednesday. So we'll just review this on Wednesday. But if it couldn't wait till Wednesday, let's say it's already Wednesday, just after our call time. All right, Daria, I can't wait till next Wednesday to get an update from this, but let's put something on the calendar for Friday at 2. Perfect. It wasn't a constant, hey, Daria, how are we doing? Hey, Daria, how are we doing? Because one, that's distracting. And two, it kind of would make me feel like he doesn't trust me. We talked about trust and clarity being the 2 ways this works. That makes me feel like he doesn't trust me. So set that checkpoint, not to hover, but to check in to see if they need any more tools or any more obstacles removed. Fourth up, name the owner. Who owns it? Who's doing this? It's not a team. It's not 2 people. It's not a group. 1 person owns it. Doesn't mean that a bunch of people can't be working on it. 1 person owns it. Make sure we're always choosing 1 person, and that is it. Last part of the 5, define the outcome. Give them the tools, remove obstacles, set the checkpoint, name the owner. The last, the hardest part, let go. Let go. This is the hardest part. You've done all the work. You've given them everything that they need. You trust them. They trust you. There's clarity. Let it go. If the outcome is met, win-win. That's it. Everybody won here. And if it's not, opportunity to coach to get it better the next time. But that's the hardest part, is just letting it go. And that's where most of us get stuck. I say us. I'm with you too. It's hard to let go of a process when you know you've done it right. But we do have to remember that, you know, your way is not the only way. It's a way that got us here, which should be respected. Of course, it got us here. Sometimes your team is going to do things differently. And that's actually one of the things I always loved about bringing on new folks, or in some of our acquisitions, bringing on some leadership from these acquisition companies, because I had worked with the same teams for so long. This brought in a new viewpoint. Different ways to do things where we got to mesh the ideas together, or honestly just do things completely differently. But in any case, make sure you're open to those new ideas. Give them the outcome, give them the standard, because we don't want to lose out on who we are, where we are in our values and our culture, but let them find a path to do it. Okay. So just like every week, I always leave a few takeaways or a few questions I want you to ponder until our next meeting. And one is, what's the one task you keep taking back from your team? One task you keep taking back or you just never gave up to begin with, that you just keep taking back. Are you a do-it-myself founder or a delegate and trust founder? Be honest with yourself on that one. And third, what is the biggest reason you hesitate to hand things off? Clarity, trust, or both? And let's work on that together. And if you do need help with that, of course, or if anybody you know needs help with that, that's what we are here for, LeMay Fusion Group. Reach out to us. LFG, LeMayFusionGroup.com, 732-508-0580. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, of course, where we are right now, and all the social media sites. So next week, we're continuing on with our Process and Operations Month, looking just to be sure. Yep, next week is Systems You Need Before You Scale. which is another fun one to make sure we have all the foundation that we need before we grow. So as usual, team, we're done for today. Now go finish your drink. Take a deep breath and lead with intention today. Thanks so much, everyone.